So it'll be one big museum with old history and new current events and really fun ideas and programs that you and your families will be able to attend. And when you come inside the museum, here's what one of the galleries would look like from up above. And so one of my favorite things is over here are a whole bunch of really big cubes that you'll be able to manipulate and turn around and build things with, and it has different people on them, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so you can figure out what it is about her that is similar to what it is about you, and what makes you a philanthropist, and what makes you an activist, and all of the things about your identity that make you who you are. And so Ruth Bader Ginsburg is one of the people that you will see in our museum when you come to visit. So I'm going to, that's a little bit about the Capitol Jewish Museum and what it's going to look like and what you'll be able to do there. I'm gonna let Amy talk a little bit about the Giving Square and some of the things that you can do with them.
Hey everybody, it's nice to see everyone, some familiar faces and some new faces. So I'm the executive director of the Giving Square, and we're also excited that we have some pets here today because pets are a fun thing to have around. And definitely teach us a lot about giving. So the Giving Square is all about seeing the power that kids have to be philanthropic, and all the different ways that kids can give and contribute, and all the ways that we can learn from kids. And so we're trying to change the narrative that kids are not just about fundraising, but there's just so much that kids are contributing and can contribute to society if we figure out how to best serve them. So we have some programs in schools, and some, I recognize some faces of people who have gone through our Kids for Kids Fund program, which we do for 3rd through 5th graders in elementary schools. And then we also have a new program that we started, which is called the Giving Square Fellowship. And so we have, this is an intergenerational group of fantastic individuals that really care about philanthropy and helping more kids become philanthropic. So Sam is one of our fellows, as is Melanie, and I saw that Alona is here as well. So glad to have you guys here. And then we do some community events, and so we're really excited to partner with the Capitol Jewish Museum here today because we have a lot of things in common, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg is such a perfect person to talk about because she's such a great leader and such a great example for all of us. And you can't see them, but I wore my little collar earrings today, so a little inspiration. And I haven't worn earrings, I think, in about a year, so that was very exciting. So what we're going to start with is a quick warm-up. And so I would love you to get your chat box fingers ready. And I want you all to answer this question. The question is, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was. Okay, so just answer that question however you want to interpret. And let's see what comes. Okay, Supreme Court Justice. Great. Jewish, a hero, left-handed. Sadie, that's a great fact. A hero. A lawyer, a great role model. Yep. Inspirational. A women's rights activist. I don't know why that's hard to say. An inspiration, and she worked really hard to promote women's rights. A rebel. Alona, I like that. So some of what you've talked about, we're gonna kind of dig into today. These are great. So the other thing, and I apologize for my dog, the other thing is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was really a philanthropist, and that's what we wanna really focus on today. But before we talk about that, I would love Sam, I'm gonna mute myself, and Sam, can you share a little bit about what a philanthropist is, and then maybe Alona and Eloise if you wanna share.
A philanthropist is somebody who cares about other people and knows that the world is not centered around them and that other people matter, and not everybody has what you have, and not everybody's as lucky, and that you need to, and that it's good to help people and help them get their basic needs.
Great. Alona, do you want to share?
being open-minded to helping people and many different ways to help people. Sometimes it's by giving money, and sometimes it's by different ways.
Excellent. Eloise, anything to add?
So as everybody who has spoken, I'm scared of mispronouncing the names. So not only is a philanthropist giving to others, but they're just enjoying life and making sure that everybody is happy. Everybody knows what's best. And they try and help everybody. So they give. I remember that at Kids for Kids, we discussed that they were someone who helps for the greater good and normally has nonprofit organizations or uses their money to help others, but just helping people in general.
Yep. Excellent. So I think because I talked about my dog, I think my dog thought that he wanted that I was inviting him to participate in this conversation. So apologies for the barking. Thanks for those great answers. And yeah, so we see philanthropists as people who really give of themselves for the good of others. And I think you guys did a great job of describing different elements of that. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it back to Stephanie and we're going to dig in and learn some cool stuff.
So we're going to learn a little bit about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And one thing that I want to do is I'm going to start by looking at something that belonged to her. So the museum has a lot of objects that belong to other people that tell us about themselves. And so one of those things is this collar. We know that Ruth Bader Ginsburg wore a collar for a lot of reasons. And before we get to that, I want to just talk about when we look at it really closely. So I'm going to give everyone some time to look at it. Just tell us, what do you see right away? What do you notice about the collar? You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
I noticed that like each stitch.
Yeah, you can see all the little stitches. You're right. And I see that Eloise mentioned in the chat that she notices that it was knitted, which makes me think that it might have been handmade by somebody. Yeah, Ethan, you're right. It looks like it's hand sewn. Alona is saying that it's knitted in white. Eloise, instead of being produced. So it looks like it was made, maybe it was made for her, maybe it was made for someone else. Yeah, it has those holes and you can see that there are stitches closer together at the top. And then the stitches are further apart at the bottom. It's very complex, Ethan, you're right. There's a lot of skill to make something like this that has all those pieces in it. What does this make you think about when you see it? It looks regal. It makes me think about other things that I've seen that look like this. It's very, it looks older, like something that my grandma would have on a table. It has an older style. What else do you think about? Have you seen anything like this before? Or have you seen her wear collars before? Yeah, Melanie is saying she agrees about the older style, like a doily. Jill says maybe something formal or proper. Oh, the Housefeld's talking about pieces my grandma knits. It makes me think of all of those things too. Normally colors are embroidered, but I feel like this represents how RBG rose from a small life and built upwards by herself. That's really interesting, Eloise. That's a lot of information about her.
Because for the wax museum that I did, which is how I got interested in her, so she grew up in a poor family. So I think this is sort of representing not that, or that she didn't have the best life, but then it became really good, and it spoke of her, and the color speaks of her trials and how she's had to build her life to get to there, especially because of how few people that were, and I'm pretty sure she was also the first Jewish judge on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, there's a lot of what you're saying makes so much sense. I agree. I think it represents how she rose up and became the woman that she was, and this really represents a lot about her. And so I want us to keep thinking about how this collar represents her and what it might mean when she's wearing it. Does it make you wonder? Do you have any questions about the collar or about Ruth Bader Ginsburg now that we've looked at this so closely? I can see so many of you thinking as you type your answers and prepare.
So I actually remembered another thing, which was, I forget if it was about her earrings, but I'm pretty sure that the same book said that she normally wore this collar, well, a certain collar, to represent that she is representing them, the people, and she's going to try and make the best decision, as well as saying, I am equal to you, and I am just trying to do my best to help you and the country do their best.
I like that too. I see that some people are also talking about how it looks feminine and maybe proud in who she was. What do you guys think about what Eloise is saying about how it's a representation of the people and of others, why she might be wearing it? Ethan agrees. And like Eloise mentioned, she is the first Jewish woman to be on the Supreme Court, but there was a Jewish justice before her, many years before her, to join the court. So what we're going to do is look at a lot of those things, take all of these ideas that you had talked about, and we're going to look at her childhood. But before we get to her childhood, I want to look at some other Supreme Court justices. So here is Ruth Bader Ginsburg wearing the collar. That's her wearing a collar. It's a different one. And we can see a lot about her in this image. You see that she's still wearing, it still looks kind of knitted and white, has all those points, everything that you mentioned, all the things you're talking about. But she's also wearing this long black robe. And she's wearing this long black robe that all other Supreme Court justices wear. And she's wearing those earrings, you're right. Now, she looks a little bit different because of that color. So we're going to look at another Supreme Court justice. And so this is Justice Clarence Thomas. And you'll notice he's not wearing a collar. But what do you see instead?
A suit.
You notice the suit, yeah. So the justices' robes, the tie, are actually made so that you see that suit and that tie underneath their Supreme Court robe, underneath their judge's robe. And so you see the collared shirt, the tie, it reminds us of a suit, and those are all things that were generally worn by men. And so it took quite some time until a woman was appointed to the Supreme Court. It wasn't until the 80s when a woman joined the Supreme Court, and her name was Sandra Day O'Connor. And you'll notice something different about what she's wearing as well. Mila, your hand is up.
I noticed something. I noticed the men and women wear different things, but I also noticed not all of the women get the same collars. I noticed that they both have different ones. They don't all wear the same one.
Yeah, you're right. They are wearing different ones. Why might they be wearing something different from one another?
Because they have different styles and they're different people.
Yeah, it could be just it's a different style and they're different people. We spent a lot of time thinking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and why she wears that collar. Now, Sandra Day O'Connor is wearing a very beautiful scarf, and you can tell that they have different statements. Now, what Ruth Bader Ginsburg has said is that she would wear the collar and Sandra Day O'Connor would wear a scarf because robes were meant for men to be worn, and that's why they were designed, so that you would see the tie. So they wanted to add a feminine touch. And so this was a way for them to show their feminism while on the bench, but also it was a statement about women being on the bench for the first time when the role had been traditionally filled by men. And so the collar comes to represent that. And lots of women who have been on the Supreme Court since then have continued to wear large necklaces or earrings, scarves, just like the two of them did as they were on the court to show that difference. I'd love to know what you would wear if you were on the court. What would you pick out as your statement piece? Would it be a tie? Would it be earrings? What might you wear?
I'd probably wear like some sort of like exotic tie.
Exotic tie. Why would that be your choice, Sam?
I don't know. I just feel like because you get to see the design, because unlike on the justice who's on the man, his tie is like I feel like the focal point because it's black and white and it's red, and I feel like if you wear an exotic tie, it'll really show up.
Yeah, I like that. It's a bold statement. You want to make sure that you stand out. Oh, Sadie's saying that she would wear a collar like RBG. Ethan would also wear a shirt.
I would wear like lightning bolt earrings, so to show justice.
Oh, why does the lightning bolt earrings remind you of justice?
Because to me it feels like lightning bolts mean a lot of things because lots of people wear them kind of for different things. And for me, a lightning bolt kind of stands for like power and justice, and yeah.
I love the symbolism and thought in something like that. Does anyone else want to share what they might wear?
So I was originally thinking a hat, but then I realized, oh wait, that's considered impolite to wear a hat indoors. So my second thought is maybe I could have certain earrings of some sort. So RGB also frequently changed her earrings based on the decision that they had made, or at least that she had made. I forget which one. But I also might like dye my hair so that to represent the change of style and tradition and how we used to be really, well, I mean, we still are sort of messed up, But now we're growing, and so I feel like having dyed hair would represent that change, because it used to be hard and looked down upon, but now people just say, oh, she has dyed hair, that's cool. And also to represent that I represent the people, the kids, and everybody in the world, not just the country.
I love that. You guys you all have some great ideas on different symbols that you could take and why she would do this. And some of you have mentioned as to why she'd wear specific colors, and it was for the people or for a decision she made, and you're right. The color that she's wearing here is one that she wore the first time President Barack Obama stepped on the floor of Congress when he was still a senator from Illinois. And so that color has special meaning. So anytime she would see him speak, she would wear this color. She also has a collar that she would wear when she would write a dissenting opinion, which means that she disagreed with the decision of the court. And so that's a very famous collar that is made into a lot of jewelry and shirts and things of that sort to remind us of her. Now, to get to be a woman like this and to have all of these thoughts and to be fighting for justice, it all starts when you're a kid, just like you are. And it started, as some of you talked about, she grew up in a home that looked maybe like some of ours and maybe a little bit different. Does this look anything like your houses at all? Does it look a lot different than your houses? It looks different from my house. Yeah, so she grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and so this is the home that she had talked about. And she would do a lot of things as a kid, just like we would do. I'd love to know, what are some of your favorite activities to do as a kid? What are some things that you really love to do?
Some of the things I like to do, is big one is right now playing my trumpet, because I'm in band, and getting to play football.
I'm pretty sure she also played a brass instrument.
I don't know if she played an instrument, but that'd be really cool. Another connection.
Except I think that was in high school. Yeah, I really like to bake.
Yeah, bake.
I also love to read.
A lot of things, but I guess if I'll have to choose two, I would do, if we were in person, I would love to go to
Oh yeah, I meant the cello. Sorry, I interrupted.
To the pool, and during this pandemic, I like going on my tablet and playing on Roblox on this device that I'm using now.
Very cool. She loved to do all those things as a kid too. And she would play jacks and play with her friends. And so this is her as a little kid. She is about 2 or 3 years old, and she had a nickname. And so her friends and family never called her Ruth. They called her Kiki, because she was a Kiki baby. I'd love to see some of your nicknames if you want to put them in the chat. My family has always called me, I've always called by Steph, which is a shorter name for Stephanie. So it's not a completely different nickname. They just shortened mine.
She's so cute.
I love it. Yep. So this is
so
her. She would go by Kiki. Anytime I click the chat, I have to re-click on my slideshow to show you a new photo. And this is her with some of her friends when she was in high school, and they were at field day at school. So they were outside playing a lot of games, just like all of you had mentioned. And this is her at 15 at a summer camp, and she was giving a speech as a camp rabbi, and she was leading a sermon. She speaks a lot about her Jewish values and how important they are to her, and how they really shaped her life, and how they shaped her view of justice. And so you can see, even at a young age, at 15, she's giving a sermon at a camp and speaking to these things that she talks about later in her life too. We've looked at a lot of photos. I'm gonna stop sharing some of our photos, and I'd love to hear a little bit from you all about what you thought was philanthropic about the caller or herself. I love hearing from you all, and so don't feel as if you're interrupting me or speaking up. That's what we're here to do. It's important that you're sharing your ideas and helping us learn from one another. You can share things in the chat or unmute yourself. What do you think about her that was philanthropic? So Eloise and Sam and Alona was able to share a little bit at the beginning of what philanthropy was. Was there anything about her life that you thought might be philanthropic?
And maybe we can give some clues. So maybe we could, yeah. So anything else, or should I jump in?
No,
oh yes, Melanie, go ahead.
I believe she worked really hard in court, and when she learned, about women's rights, and to me, all that she did to change the way that things that happened after that is very philanthropic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think some of the things you've also mentioned about like the role she played with the law was really philanthropic and really helped protect people, and the work she did for gender equality. So she's a great role model. So now we're going to shift, and what we're going to talk about is we're going to think more about you. And this is true for both the adults and the kids. And so we're going to now go through Ruth Bader's life, and I'm going to share some of the things that helped her be philanthropic. And for each of these topics, I want you to think about yourself. So I'm going to give a category, I'm going to share a little bit more information, and then I want you to reflect on your own life, because you are philanthropic and have great power to do good for others now. And so I want you to think about yourself, okay? So I would say one of the things that helped prepare Ruth Bader Ginsburg to be a philanthropist was her culture, her family, and her religion. And I think being Jewish was a really important part of why she was so philanthropic and did such good for people. Can anyone explain how do Jewish values fit in to giving and doing good for others? Yes, Eloise, and then Sam.
So in that time, people were looked down upon based on their religions. Mm-hmm. And Judaism was one of them.
Yeah, and so Sam, can you share about what?
And so that is also partly one of the reasons why her family wasn't as privileged, because it was more, the jobs were segregated.
So there was some discrimination at the time, and we'll talk about that next. First, I want to focus on what do Jewish values teach us about giving? Sam, you want to go, and then Alona?
I was going to say because Jewish values are about being inclusive and helping others, because you give tzedakah and you donate and you do things for others. Yeah. And because you're being in the image of God.
Yeah. So that really affected her. Alona, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So we believe that we're all the children of God, mm-hmm. and that everyone is equal, and we need to do everything we can to give to people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So you have a responsibility to take care of others. Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing that I think really helps people be more philanthropic. So you can think about in your own life, what is the culture or your family or religion, and what does that teach you about doing good for others? Another thing is that she really experienced injustice. And I'm going to start with kind of a lighter topic. And I think it was Sadie. Is Sadie here still? Sadie, remember how you said you were the one that brought up that she's left-handed, right? And so one of the things that I learned is that one of her teachers when she was young forced her to write right-handed, and then gave her a D on her paper because of her bad penmanship. And she felt like that was such injustice. Sadie, are you left-handed too? Yeah. So could you imagine if somebody made you write a paper and then gave you a bad grade purely because you had to write it with the right hand? So it was from that time she said she would never write with her right hand again. And she knew that it was right to fight for that. So that was an early injustice that she experienced. And then Eloise, you talked about being Jewish, there was some discrimination. And that was around the time of the Holocaust, right? And so she experienced that. Does anyone want to share a little bit about how that probably shaped her? Like what injustice can anyone share about the injustice of the Holocaust? Or discrimination against?
Because, I mean, the injustice of the Holocaust in that era was that first Nazis outlawed Jews being able to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then they outlawed, they outlawed Jewish businesses and basically forced them shut down.
Yep.
And then, and it came to the point where they wanted to kill and get rid of all Jews. And people were scared for their lives.
Luna.
Hitler told people that the cause of World War I and every single bad thing was because of the Jews, and that was really not fair.
And now, a politician who I'm not going to name, I mean, you probably all know her name, anyways, blamed forest fires on Jewish laser beams from space.
Yeah.
Like, not only is that being really, really, I can't even find the word, but it's also just delusional.
So I think, thanks Eloise. So I think that when we experience discrimination, as she did as a child for being Jewish, as did her family, being the recipient of discrimination really helps you experience injustice, and then that gives you some fire to really help others and make sure the world changes, right? And that certainly did for her. Okay, two other quick things. One is that we already talked about gender. So she really saw that life wasn't fair for women from an early age. And one thing was that when she was of age, she was really frustrated that only boys got to have a bar mitzvah, and at the time, girls did not. Her mother also, when she was younger, her mother had to give up going to school so her brother could. So her uncle got to go to school, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg's mom had to give that up. So gender equality was something that was really important for her for a long time. And then another thing that was unfair in her life was that cancer really affected her family, and it affected her husband, it affected her mom, and eventually it affected her. And so it's not fair that she got cancer or that she had to deal with all of this. So as you think about how you want to help, think about the injustices that you have experienced or that you know about, and things that are unfair in your life, because that gives you fire to really help fight them. Okay. So another thing is, the last thing is that she had skills, and I would love to hear from you what your philanthropic skills are. So this is one that you can jump into. So in her case, she loved reading, and she loved reading so much that one time she tripped and broke her nose because she was reading as she walked. Zoe, what do you have there? That's a good picture of her for inspiration.
Yeah, I read a book about her, and this came with it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I read a book. I forget all of the details, but it was called I Descent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure it was actually a Black-Eyed Susan for that year.
Interesting. Okay, so Zoe, what skills did Ruth Bader Ginsburg have? So we knew she was a good reader, right? She loved to read. What else did she like to do? Can you think of anything, or did you learn anything in your book? Or is that a hard question?
Well, it was more when she was growing up. I don't really know.
What skills did she have as an adult?
Well,
good at arguing, kind of like you.
You like to talk, Zoe? So she was really good at communicating and speaking up, right? And maybe that's a skill you have, Zoe. Okay, Sam, what's another skill that she had? Or either as an adult or a child?
I was going to say advocating for her beliefs.
Advocating, yep. And like standing up for justice and being able to address policies. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Mila, what do you think one thing that she was really good at was?
Not letting anyone judge her because she's Jewish.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and using that not to kind of shrink, but it gave her power, right? Great, okay. So we're gonna do one more thing. We're gonna learn, see one more artifact from the museum. And then before we go, I want everyone, at the end, what we're gonna do is I want everyone to think of one skill, one philanthropic skill that you have or had as a kid that you think makes you a good philanthropist, okay? So that's how we're gonna end. So I want everyone to think about what is one skill that you have that may be the same as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or it might be different. But you'll share that at the end. Okay, so we're gonna jump back to Stephanie and we're gonna see a cool prize that she got.
So one other thing that the museum has, Ruth Bader Ginsburg used all of those skills, just like you were talking about and that you have too, as a philanthropist and as a justice. And she was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018 as a thank you for all of the hard work and her constant fight for rights for other people. So she was looking at human rights and social justice. And this is a hand-blown glass object that sat in her office in the Supreme Court on a shelf behind her desk. And it's in the shape of a shofar, which is something that is used to celebrate Passover. But the prize itself was given to her when she was supported unanimously, which means everyone who had already been honored with this prize from the Genesis Prize in Israel. And she was voted by all of them to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award for all of her hard work. Stop sharing that so you can think about some of the skills you have. But all of the skills that she had learned when she was young and when she was older led her to become the justice and philanthropist that she was when she was given this award for all of the good work that she had done on behalf of other people, not just for herself.
Excellent. So I think she's clearly a very inspiring person. And the cool thing, the reason that I really enjoyed kind of learning about her childhood is you see that she was really interesting as a kid. And you see that when she was a child, there were lots of kind of the beginnings of her power that happened when she was young. Okay, so now we want to close and we would love to have everyone share verbally, if possible, what is one philanthropic skill that you have, either now or when you were, or if you're an adult, maybe a skill that you had or something you really enjoyed as a kid. And I'll remind you of some of the things you've already said about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So you've said that she's a good writer, advocate, rebel, reader. So I would love to hear. So I'm going to start with Melanie. I'm just going to do it by box, and then you can pass if you feel like passing. Or you're muted. Oh, you're still muted.
Sorry. Getting along with others and engaging them in activities, and I really enjoy meeting new people. So that's that's what I like to do.
Yep, and you're good at it now.
Okay.
Yep. Sadie, what about you? What is a philanthropic skill that you have?
I like reading.
You like reading? Is that what you said? Excellent. Ethan's family.
We were talking about having empathy for others and trying to see outside of our own family what others need.
Yeah, excellent. Bonnie. And then we'll go to Sam and Eloise.
So this might seem like kind of a goofy one, but I notice little things. So I I see lots of little ways that I can be helpful to others that are easy things to do.
I like that. Sam.
One of the things I find myself doing really easily is advocating for myself and others.
Mm-hmm. Great. Eloise, and then Alona,
So,
and then Zoe.
one of the things that I think that I'm good at with philanthropic skills is looking past what's visible in people and getting the story by reading their expressions and the small movements, as well as just their history. Exactly.
Excellent.
I was saying exactly to Miss Fries.
So going deeper.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Alona.
I like to try my best to resolve conflicts in any way I can, and I like writing books.
Resolving conflict is a very clutch thing right now. Okay, Zoe.
I usually I make bracelets and then give them to my friends, or I make cards for them.
So it sounds like your artistic skills are really important, and that you do a lot of nice things with your artistic skills. Excellent. The Housefelds, any representation first? Great.
All right, Gabby, go ahead.
I think that I'm good at, I kind of think that I'm good at, like saying things like out loud, like on the stage or like to like a lot of people.
That's great, which also means you're brave. That's another thing. Yep, that's really a good skill.
And Jacqueline, what are you good at? You want me to say it?
Reading?
Reading. She likes reading. Yeah.
Reading. So just learn from Ruth Bader Ginsburg and make sure not to read and walk and trip over yourself so you break your nose. So Joshua, what about you?
I also like reading.
Yeah, what kind of books do you like to read, Joshua?
Chapter books.
Excellent.
Not extra long. I also like. I usually. I prefer mysteries. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Okay, Mila.
I'm good at just being kind to others.
Sorry, the dog was barking again, Mila. Can you repeat that one more time? I'm so sorry.
I think I'm just good at being kind to others.
Excellent. Okay. Madam Fiorante.
So at the beginning of the pandemic, we decided we wanted to donate to some charities. So I think I'm really good at figuring out where we can put our money to. That would be very helpful. And for my mom, she doesn't want to be on camera right now. But she says she likes to use her musical talents because she plays the piano. When she used to teach kids with special needs how to play music. So she thinks that's philanthropic about her.
Excellent. And so what I hear about you is that you're really good at researching and some of that, which is clearly very important. And then music is interesting because I think during the pandemic, we've seen some really cool ways that that's been helpful. And then from the Ammerman household, I'll just give you a chance, but I think you're off screen. So excellent. Well, this is what I like about this is everybody has really different skills. And so that's what the world needs, is everyone to have different philanthropic skills. Okay, so with that, we're really grateful to everyone. We're really excited that you came. At the Giving Square, we really care about finding different ways for kids to be philanthropic. So if you're interested, we can send you the link to our newsletter and our website. And then Stephanie, anything on the museum side?
We're so glad that you joined us and learned a little bit about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but more importantly, found some ways that you are very similar to her and have a lot of the same skills that she did, so you can continue to do the amazing work that she was doing. We also have a newsletter that you can join, and I'll send, after this meeting, I'll send you all links to the Giving Square and Capital Jewish Museum, so you have our website information and our contact information if you have questions, because we'd love to have you continue to join us and follow along as we build the museum. So welcome you in.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.